So you've built an AI side project, which is awesome. But let's be real. In today's job market, how do you make your project the one that actually gets you noticed, the one that lands you the job? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into right now. How to take that project from just a cool idea to a seriously impressive portfolio piece.
Okay, so let's jump into a trap that is so easy to fall into. We call it the feature factory. It's that place where you're so excited to build that you just start cranking out features, one after another, without a real clear plan. And before you know it, you've built this thing that's kind of chaotic and might not even solve a real problem for anyone. And a lot of times, the path to that feature factory starts with something called vibe coding. You know what I mean? You get an idea, you start talking to an AI, giving it instructions on the fly, and poof, you've got a working app. It's amazing for getting something up and running fast, for sure. But when a hiring manager asks about your process, saying you just vibe coded it, well, that's probably not going to cut it. So how do we get out of that factory mindset? We're going to follow this 5-step game plan. First, we'll get inside the head of a hiring manager. Then we'll talk about uncovering what customers actually need. After that, building with real discipline, defining and measuring what success even looks like. And finally, we'll see the big payoff when it all comes together. All right, let's start with what's probably the most important part. A total shift in how you think. If you really want to stand out, you've got to stop thinking just like a builder and start thinking like a product leader. And this is the big question you have to answer for yourself, right? I mean, with the AI tools we have now, the bar for just making a simple app is incredibly low. So your real value isn't just in what you can build, it's in the how and, most importantly, the why. Here's the secret weapon. Work backwards. Seriously. Instead of just building something and then trying to figure out how to talk about it, think ahead. Anticipate the tough questions a hiring manager is going to throw at you, and then design your whole project around having amazing, concrete answers for them. Because at the end of the day, this is what they're really looking for. They're not just trying to hire someone who can write code. They want to see that you have end-to-end product thinking, that you can take a tiny little idea and see it all the way through to a valuable solution for a real person. And that brings us right to the foundation of literally any good product, understanding the customer. This is where you really start to separate yourself from the crowd. Okay, be ready for this one. It's coming for sure. It is maybe the most fundamental question in all of product management, and how you answer it says pretty much everything about your approach. Now, a killer answer has layers. Of course, you need to define your customer, their demographics, what industry they're in, but you also need to paint a picture of the context. Where would they actually use your project? And then the most important part, you have to connect it all back to you. Why are you so passionate about solving this problem for these specific people? And you can bet they're not going to stop there. They're absolutely going to dig deeper. They want to know your process. How did you go from just guessing what people want to truly understanding their pain points? Both the things they tell you and, maybe more importantly, the things they don't even know how to ask for. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. The superficial approach is passive. Oh, customers just told me. But the deep, really impressive approach, it's active. It shows that you actually created things like mock-ups or prototypes, and then you sat down and watched real users interact with them. You didn't just listen, you were a detective. Okay, so you figured out who your customer is and what they need. Now the spotlight shifts to how you actually built the thing. This is where you get to show off your professional discipline. This question right here, it's a test. It's how a hiring manager separates the people who just build fun little toys from the people who understand what it takes to ship real-world software. This is that boring but super critical stuff that really matters. So a great answer is going to hit on points like these. Did you even think about handling sensitive user data? Did you use encryption? Did you consider the legal basics, like a privacy policy? And here's a big one. Can you show that you did more than just ask an AI to make it secure, and that you actually checked the work? And that leads to another huge part of building with rigor, trade-offs. Professional product management is basically just an endless series of these. Being able to talk intelligently about how you balanced competing goals, like, say, speed versus cost or cost versus accuracy, proves you can make the kind of tough strategic calls the job demands every single day. So you've built a solid product for a customer you deeply understand. Fantastic. But how do you know if it actually worked? You've got to be able to prove its value with cold, hard data. This really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? It's easy to vibe code a feature. What's hard, and what hiring managers are incredibly impressed by,
is when you define a clear goal upfront and then build your product specifically to hit that measurable target. And they're not just going to ask what you measured, but how. This question gets at both your technical chops and your product sense. Did you think about how to collect data from the very beginning? How did you actually implement the tools to prove your project made an impact? You need to be ready to talk about specific KPIs, your key performance indicators. Were you tracking how many people used your app every week? Or maybe the average session length was more important. Or maybe you were focused on keeping people from leaving, your churn rate. Talking about these specific metrics proves you were focused on delivering real value, not just shipping code. So after putting in all this thought and all this rigor, working backwards from what that hiring manager wants to know, what's the final result? What's the big payoff? This is it. This is the transformation. You take your project from that before state, that chaotic feature factory we talked about, to this after state. A clean, focused engine that's completely driven by customer obsession and guided by clear, simple metrics. And what that means is your side project is now so much more than just a cool app. It's a full-blown case study. It's the story you can tell to show your deep customer research, your smart strategic trade-offs, and your focus on success. It becomes undeniable proof of your end-to-end product thinking. So, we'll just leave you with this one question to mull over. The next time you start a project, don't just build an app. Build a story. Build a portfolio piece that shows a hiring manager not just what you can make, but how you think.